Hello, all you coin collectors out there, and welcome to DC Coin World International Coin Channel. Today we're going to take a look at a stack of Australian 5-cent coins that I was given, or 5 cents coins that I was given, and just go through them and take a look at some of the characteristics. And these are a number of years, I think probably from the 60s to the 2000s, but let's just take a look at them. The first thing we can do is just look at the back. And on the back, we see that very, very famous portrait of the spiny anteater, or the short-beaked echidna. And there he or she is right there with the 5 on the back for 5 cents, and the nose coming through, and the claws here, and the claws here, and the spines going around the outside. This is a copper nickel coin, and this particular back has been made since 1966. It's a Stuart Devlin design, and it is, if we tip it up, we'll see that it has a reeded edge to it. It's 2.83 grams and 19.4 millimeters in diameter and 1.3 millimeters in thickness. And we look at this one, we see it is one of the newer ones, 2011, with the 4th portrait on it. So I'm going to make a little pile up here of the 4th portrait. And then I see this one here, and that's going to be, that's the, and we call it the 4th portrait, and I should bring that back. The 4th portrait of Queen Elizabeth is simply the 4th portrait, not the 4th different portrait on this coin. The 4th portrait of the Queen that has been authorized by the Queen herself. So this is the 4th portrait that's on a British coin, a Canadian coin, any other coin that puts the Queen on it. This is the 4th portrait. So not just Australia. And it turns out that Australia didn't have the first portrait on the 5-cent coins because they hadn't gone into decimalization at that point. So Australia 5-cent coins start with the 2nd portrait. Anyway, here's the 4th. Here's the 2nd. And you can see this is the famous Arnold Machin portrait with the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. So we'll put a pile of those up the top. Here's a 2nd. Here's another 2nd. We're going to find a lot of 2nds because they really pumped a lot of these coins out when they first came out. So this is the 3rd portrait. And this particular portrait is the Raphael David McCloof portrait, or the 3rd portrait of the Queen. We'll put a pile of them. So now I'll just separate them all out into different piles. So here's a 2nd, a 2nd, 2nd, 3rd, and we're going to have 3 piles at the end, and we'll just go through them one by one. 2nd, 2nd. Jeez, we got a bunch of them here, huh? 2nd, 2nd, 3rd, and you start to notice the difference once you start going through them a little quicker. There's another 2nd, and we got a couple more down here. Another 2nd, and another 4th. So we have 3 piles here. We have the 4th portrait, the 3rd portrait, and the 2nd portrait. And we'll move the 3rds and the 4ths up a little bit and start looking through the 2nd. So this first one has a little bit of wear on it, as you can see. Let's move it down a little further so we don't have to look at the other coins up there in the periphery. So here is the 1981 2nd portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. And this coin was made from 1966 to 1984. So this coin actually was one of the first. This is the first image that was on a decimalization coin, but they made it in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's a 75, so now we have an 80 and a 70, and of course all of them have the same spiny anteater on the back. There's an 83, a 76, 77, 73, 66. This is the first year that they made them. And it's just a, this actually is a really nice looking coin too for 66. None of these are worth much money. I think that if we look from the 66 to 84, the general circulation coins, you're not going to find one in the condition that these are in that's worth even 50 cents US. It'd have to be actually in better condition than many of these. There's a 76. So these are coins which are fun to collect and get all the years in. There's another 66 and 82. So we're getting near the end because 84 was the last year. A 76 and a 78. So in those years that we looked at, they made 45 million in 66. They made 67 million in 68. 48 million in 73. And by 76, though, they really started pumping them out. 113 million in 76, 108 million in 77. And then the last 82 that we saw, that was the highest year ever. And in 1982, the one we looked at, they made 139.5 million of them. So what came next? Well, that blank screen was kind of distressing, huh? In 1985, they came out with the same coin, but it had the different portrait of the Queen, and this is the third portrait of the Queen. And if we tip it up, we see that she's wearing the George IV state diadem, which is this crown here, the jewelry, the necklace, the earrings, and we changed a little bit here, but not much. Still Elizabeth II, Australia, and then the year under here. But because this is the Raphael David Makhlouf portrait, we get a little bit of a initial there, so we got to change there. And then on the back, we have pretty much exactly the same back, the Stuart Devlin back, and the same makeup, which is copper nickel. And then finally, for the fourth portrait, we see a 2002 and a 2011. Now these coins are currently made. So 1999 was the first year, and that was the fourth portrait of the Queen. And now she's wearing, which is weird, the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara again, which she was wearing in the second portrait. So it came back. This is a kind of a different design of it, and that's because this is the Ian Rank Broadley design or engraving. And this is, you can see if you look way down here, you can see an I, an R, and a B right underneath her neck. That's for Ian Rank Broadley. Again, Elizabeth II, Australia, and then the year. And if we tip it over on the back, there's that old spiny anteater again, sticking his nose through the 5. So these coins are still currently made. I'm not sure how much longer they'll make them, simply because it's not clear that they are of great value or much use. But in the United States, we still have the 5-cent or nickel coins made, so maybe they'll keep making them in Australia too. All right, that's all we have today from the DC Coin World International Coin Channel. We'd love to have you subscribe to our channel and leave any comments you might have in the comments section.